A warm welcome to all the participants and our distinguished panelists to this insightful panel discussion, which is going to be on a hot topic and an important topic, Silkyara Revisited, Lessons Learned or Forgotten. So, as you all know, that Silkyara incident that took place around the same time last year. In fact, it was that fateful morning of 12th November 2023, when due to an unfortunate collapse during which the part of the tunnel collapsed in Silkyara, 41 people got trapped, and then it sort of led to a monumental rescue operation which had never been seen in the history of India as far as tunneling goes. Fortunately, after slightly more than 16 days of mammoth rescue operations, all those 41 miners came home safely. They were rescued safely, and many in the group present here were actually responsible for that operation. So during that time, as you would recall, there was unprecedented amount of attention given to this incident from media, from general public, from politicians, from bureaucracy, for other stakeholders. And till the time all those were rescued safely, we were not sure how to respond to this. But then once all of our brothers came home safely after slightly over 16 days of difficult conditions they lived in, all of us, or most of us who've been advocating changes in the way tunneling is done or tunneling is looked at in the country, we sort of hoped, expected that now with this heightened attention given to tunneling and this incident bringing into focus attention from various walks of life in the country and outside the country, perhaps people will sit up and take note of what some of us have been saying for years about the contractual practices, about the investigations, about designs, about everything on earth as far as tunneling is concerned, particularly in the difficult ground condition. And difficult ground conditions, yes, what can be more difficult as far as tunneling is concerned than the Great Himalayas? And many of you have first-hand experience of that. So we hoped for that things might change now, because they need to change. They should change. We do not want more Silkyaras. Now, 1 year down the line, it's time to review that. It's time to look at that. Has Silkyara impacted the way tunneling is looked at or is done in the country? So for all the distinguished panelists who are present here today, and we have gathered them for this discussion today, there'll be only one question. The question will be, has the Silkyara incident truly sparked changes in the tunneling practices across India, especially in the high-stakes projects? But before I ask them this question, it's my humble duty to introduce our panel of experts today, and we'll go alphabetically, surname-wise, because all of them are very senior in whatever they've been doing. All of them are very respected. So starting with Mr. Chris Cooper, who comes from Australia, but he has got a lot of experience in Indian projects. And right now also he's handling a great project. And in fact, the first issue of Tunnel Times India magazine carried an article about that. And they continue to win hearts by the way they're doing tunneling in some difficult areas. So Mr. Chris Cooper has an impressive 45-year career in mining and tunneling. He is a seasoned expert and project director renowned for his leadership on major tunnel infrastructure projects. Currently, he leads RVNL's Package 4 connecting Rishikesh to Karnaprayag, overseeing key tunnel project deliveries. Mr. Cooper played a critical advisory role during the 17-day Silkyara tunnel rescue, providing expert guidance on the micro-tunneling option and the auger techniques, which proved essential for the safe and successful operation. So we really welcome Mr. Chris Cooper to this insightful discussion, followed by Dr. Gopal Dhawan, a very renowned person, former chairman and managing director of MECL and former executive director Geotech at NHPC. He is a respected figure in geotechnical engineering and tunneling. As the founder of DDAG Private Limited, Dr. Dhawan's Academy of Geologists Private Limited, he brings a wealth of experience in infrastructure development and has a deep passion for training young engineering geologists, a noble cause indeed. Dr. Dhawan's commitment to advancing geotechnical expertise has made him a valued mentor in the field. And we look forward to his perspective because he is currently associated with several projects. He has always been for the last 45 years or so with various projects. He has seen things changing in India over a period of time. And so his perspective will be very valuable. Next on the list alphabetically is Mr. Sumit Jain, my favorite. He is an experienced civil engineer currently serving as the project director for the ambitious 125-kilometer long Rishikesh to Karnaprayag rail line in Uttarakhand, and also another project, Ramam Stage 3 hydropower project in the state of West Bengal in India. He is an alumnus of Delhi Technological University and brings over 18 years of expertise in rail and hydroelectric infrastructure. Mr. Jain's career includes roles at NTPC, Indian Railways, and now for 12 years in RVNL, where he has been instrumental in planning and executing tunneling projects from concept to commissioning. He's a member of several prestigious industry associations, including Bureau of Indian Standards CED 48 and the Indian Society for Rock Mechanics and Tunneling Technologies Executive Council. He's also a life member of International Society for Rock Mechanics and Tunnel and Rock Engineering, and also Indian Geotechnical Society. His skills span geotechnical investigations, GIS risk management, and contract and claim management, making him a valued leader in India's infrastructure development sector. So we welcome Mr. Sumit Jain to this panel discussion. And moving on, we go to another distinguished personality, Colonel Parikshit Mehra. He is an accomplished Indian Army officer from the Corps of Engineers and brings extensive experience in high-altitude combat engineering and critical infrastructure projects. With deployments in challenging terrains like the Siachen Glacier, and expertise in nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare, he has also contributed significantly to national infrastructure, leading projects on Indo-China border roads and commanding a border roads organization unit in Bhutan. Notably, he played a pivotal role in the construction of the famous Rohtang Tunnel, known as Atal Tunnel now, and was instrumental in the Silkyara Tunnel rescue operations last November, where his expertise was crucial in the safe retrieval of 41 trapped workers. Colonel Mehra is a distinguished recipient of the Sena Medal and the Chief of Army Staff's Commendation, and holds advanced qualification in tunneling, rock mechanics, and NATM from IIT Delhi and Technical University Graz, Austria. We welcome Colonel Parikshit Mehra to this discussion. And moving on, Dr. Dinesh Sati, who is unfortunately perhaps be joining in late because he's stuck somewhere. He is an expert in Himalayan geology with a PhD focused on the structure and tectonics of the higher Himalayan crystallines. He has transitioned from academic career or academic research to which he pursued at the 1 Year Institute of Himalayan Geology, to a distinguished career in consulting. Since 2005, which is almost 20 years, he has contributed his expertise to numerous hydropower, highway, and railway projects, specializing in feasibility investigations and DPR reviews, detailed project report reviews. Dr. Sati served as geology advisor to THDC, Tehri Hydro Development Corporation, for over 6 years, and has co-authored the first geotechnical baseline report for VPHEP, Vishnugad Peoplekoti Hydroelectric Project, with the famous rock mechanics consultant, Dr. Laurie Richards, marking a pioneering achievement in geological reporting. And we really welcome Dr. Sati, Dinesh Sati, to this discussion. Last but not the least, we have on board Mr. Satish Kumar Sharma, a powerhouse of knowledge and experience, currently the chairman and managing director of Hindustan Consulting Associate. He is a distinguished leader in the field of water dams and tunneling. He is an alumnus of IIT Roorkee and KNIT Sultanpur, has held top roles as the former CEO of Roddick Consultants, CTO of HCC Hindustan Construction Company, and chief engineer at the JP Group. With over 3 decades of experience behind him, Mr. Sharma has spearheaded numerous national and international tunnel and hydropower projects. Notably, his former company, Roddick, served as the PMC consultant for the Silkyara project, and that adds a unique perspective to his expertise. And so with the introduction done and dusted, it's time, ladies and gentlemen, to move and have some action. And as I said, the question is about all the noise that Silkyara made during the rescue operation last year. One would expect that things will start to change now as far as the way the tunneling is done in the country. But has that really happened? If yes, what are the changes that respected, please put yourself on mute, respected panelists have seen? If not, why not? What is hindering the progress, the natural expectation that Silkyara would make an impact? So again, we'll go alphabetically, and Next, so it's my privilege to ask this question to Mr. Chris Cooper, and I have already introduced him. So, Mr. Cooper, yeah, he's there. So, yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to this panel. I want to answer the question in a directly, and the answer is yes and no, and I'll expand on that. I'd like to focus on the project delivery holistically, rather than get into the geological detail. We've got geologists later, and they're far more experienced than me at relating to that. I recently wrote a paper on safety in tunneling, and I've highlighted the fact that safety starts at the conception of the project, through the detail of the DPR, through the selection process, and then going through the delivery itself. I'd sort of make some comparisons of what I've seen in India compared to globally. So the first instance for me, DPR, I think the DPR have got room for improvement. We're finding overseas that a lot more, the DPRs are developed far more significantly in Australia, for instance, than I've seen in the DPRs in India. And with that comes identifying risk better and accepting or taking the risk away from the contractor. I'll come on to that in a minute. And also through the design, getting a much better understanding of what the method is going to be, and also how the project is going to be delivered. The issue with Silkyara, as I see it, was that Silkyara is an EPC contract. That means that people are bidding for a price to deliver the project. In the small print of contracts, it usually says that the contractor cannot rely on the information given during the bid. There's a fault in that, because basically there's always a limited time to put the bid together, very limited time to get proper GBR, proper information, and by default the contractor ends up relying on what's given to him. If it happens overseas as well, which is why the DPRs are starting to be developed in more detail. If the DPR is not developed correctly, and I'm just generally now, I'm not going to point the fingers at Silkyara, but you can read into the conversation. If the DPR hasn't got enough detail, the contractor is making a bid on what they believe the geology is, what they believe the risks are, and how they're going to deliver the project. Okay. They will invariably bid at the lowest possible cost, and the lowest possible cost is normally is likely to be the winning bid. So you end up with a contractor that goes into a project, I wouldn't say blind, but without full information or full understanding of risk, and then tries to execute. Now, the geology may change, the support systems may change, the method statement may be more complex. Because it's a fixed price, all this comes down to the bottom line, and that leads through an EPC to when you fall behind schedule, shortcuts. There isn't a budget for things that you would like to do. When it comes to changing designs, or if, and again, this is very broad, but if the geology isn't what you saw, and you have to come into changing designs, that costs, design costs. Has the contractor got enough money for that? And this all sort of leads through, and I think this is basically, in general, a scenario that happened at Silkyara, and Silkyara became the perfect storm. So, are there any changes? I think it's too soon to say there's any change in the bidding. The project I'm on is an item rate contract, which I think is much better than an EPC contract. Is that a change? Not really, because the contract that we were awarded through RVNL was already in place. But I'd like to think that the understanding of contracts and the sharing of risk is embodied through what RVNL have done, and in future lessons learned, that tunnel the risk is apportioned or taken or transferred away from the contractor and shared with the client. Okay, how does that translate through? Okay, if you end up with a bad contract or a very difficult contract to deliver, then I'd like to think that going forward, the client, the owner of the project, is going to be far more receptive to change. If a contractor finds itself in an EPC situation where they don't have the funds, for the sake of the project, there should be a clear process for reimbursing the contractor. I think Silkyara is going through that process at the moment, but that's really paramount to safety and delivery of the project. Safety. So most of the projects, once they get uh, uh, underway, are relying on design and GFC, good for construction drawings. I found, I've been here 9 years now, but initially there was a reluctance for the execution to accept GFC drawings when the project falls behind schedule, when productivity needs to be increased. There is I won't say lip service, but people tend to be very flexible with the interpretation of GFC without going back and looking at design. The project I'm on now, so where's the change? I found that there's far more reception to following GFC, and where necessary, if the design needs to be changed, putting those changes in place. I think that's a very, very positive thing. So I'm running out of time, I think. The bottom line is no matter how poorly the contract is set up, the relationship between the client and the contractor stroke engineer should be such that if changes are required, there should be a mechanism for making those changes. Okay, that's all very well to say. It's very difficult to do. So what's really changed from Silkyara? I think what's changed from Silkyara that I'm seeing is there is far more reception to auditing or openness to auditing the project delivery phase. It's already happens in the mines. I believe that as a result of Silkyara, because of the shortfalls, shortcomings that become a culture in tunnel delivery, there should be a set of standards that should be kept between the client, engineer, and the contractor. Are we following GFC drawings? Are the designs set up properly? Are the qualifications that people executing correct? And what's the general safety culture on the project? And I think my proposal, and I think this is happening now, is that there should be some form of auditing body that an inspectorate, if you want, like they have in the mines, where they will go around and they will ensure that the stakeholders in project delivery are following general guidelines. Now, as regards to guidelines, yes, there is an improvement that I've seen since Silkyara in Uttarakhand. I've had a few visits now from the magistrate of the region, and there is a process underway whereby a set of general safety guidelines are being drafted with a view to implement them to improve the safety process of tunnel delivery. And then just finally, I went through sort of in a bit of detail in the contracts. Personally, I think that given the risks of the Himalayas, and unless the DPRs, unless a lot of the initial investigations are improved, probably the EPC is not a good contract model to go forward. To do the EPC, the risk has got to be known, or the risk has got to be owned by the client, so that there is recourse from the contractor to be reimbursed. The alternative, which is the risk model or contract model we're following in RVNL, which is the item rate contract, it's really, I find it much easier. It's less risk for the contractor. And I think in the Himalayas, until we get more information or until the DPRs are prepared in a more detailed manner, that the cost plus or the item rate is probably a much better delivery model. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chris, for giving us a good summary of your perspective of how Silkyara has impacted. At the same time, you have highlighted some very important points about what needs to be done to improve things. And what will stay with me is the way you have explained how EPC contracts are actually doing harm in a situation where DPRs and investigations are not up to the mark. So that point is very valid. And now I would like to invite Dr. Gopal Dhawan to answer the question. The question remains the same, but the perspective will change. So, Dr. Gopal Dhawan.
Good afternoon, Dr. Baban, and good afternoon, my dear panelists and friends. Thank you very much, Dr. Baban, for your invite. In fact, when you asked me to join this panel, that I have to be here today, so I really went into an introspection mode and asked a question to myself, why it happened? And it took me deep into my own experience as an engineering geologist, that what are the situations which would have led to this kind of problem. Dr. Baman, you will have to give me permission for sharing a picture, because one picture can convey 1,000 words. Can I share my screen, please, for showing a picture?
Yes, you can share. You are the host now, Dr. Gopal Dhawan.
Okay, thank you very much. Very soon you will see what I want to show you.
Yes, it is coming up. Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
this is what it is. You see, this is what we are dealing with. This is a typical scenario where we deal with, laying our tunnels in Himalayas. And this is a picture taken by me during one of the investigations which I led in Bhutan Himalayas. The name of the project was Chamkarchu in 2011. But it can be replicated anywhere, any part of the Himalayas. Situation is almost similar. So you see that there's a rugged topography, steeply dipping hills, lot of depressions in between, deep nalas are there, and this red line is, just I'm trying to show that this could be the tunnel alignment at a particular level. So you see that this tunnel has to negotiate these deep nalas, and you may find all sorts of problems because these deep nalas many times are laid along the tectonic contacts. There could be very deep overburden. You may not get rock at the tunnel grade. And over and above, the site is totally inaccessible. For taking this picture, I have to travel for about 25 kilometers, and it took me 2 days to reach this spot from where I could view the tunnel from the opposite bank. So the challenges are in inaccessibility, complexity of geological architecture. You don't see any outcrop anywhere. And then there's lack of deep investigative techniques still in India. And we are very shy of taking help from the geophysical or aerial geophysical techniques. So we develop our projects in such a situation. I'm not trying to give any advantage to the ill-prepared DPRs, because my previous speaker very nicely covered that and told importance of the DPR. If DPRs are not done correctly, it will certainly reflect in all stages of the project. But Silkyara was not an exception. it was not different. It was also laid in similar Himalayan terrain. And high-level committee, which was set up by Government of India, has already given their findings. And I will like to quote some of these findings which they have showed, they have put up. They said that DPR, it was prepared without subsurface investigations. It's very sad. Technical bid specifications were finalized without significant geotechnical investigations. The EPC contractor also did limited geological and geotechnical investigations. During constructions, there were about 21 cavities during a span of 4 years, but they were perhaps not taken as an alarm that something is going in wrong direction. And the committee went on saying that they said that perhaps the reason for this unusually high number of cavities was that the RMR system which they were using was not correctly applying. Perhaps rock was overrated. So in this situation, we really need to find out a way that a disciplined way of improving our investigations and then doing the proper risk evaluation at the investigation or DPR stage itself. There is a simple flow chart, if you can see. So you see in this simple flow diagram, what I'm saying is that when we start from pre-feasibility stage, there has to be a thorough geological appraisal of various tunnel alignments. And maybe at this stage, I advocate that it is always prudent to send a reasonably senior team. Normally, what happens is that the initial stage of the projects in India, junior people are sent to site because sites are inaccessible, difficult, and there are so many infrastructural problems. But at this stage, I think one visit should be done by very senior people who may like to review the topographical setup, regional geology, stratigraphy, seismotectonic. And then during the site visit, they decide that what are the probable ranking of various alternatives and then select a couple of alternatives for final investigation. And then we plan our investigation in a proper manner. And then starting from a good topographical map to geological survey to drilling, we should not be shy of doing drilling. And I think we need to deploy some deep drilling rigs in the situation, as I showed you that in the deep Nala beds, some deep drilling would be very much helpful. And nowadays, geophysical techniques are also doing a lot of good. So this is what I have to say, Dr. Burman, in the first phase. And maybe in the second phase, I will come back with some ideas that what should be done. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll wait to hear more from you, particularly now, Dr. Gopal Dhawan, on because you are associated with so many projects and you have meetings and you have discussions with people. So what are the vibes in the industry? I mean, has Silkyara created enough impact for people to sit up and take note? Yes, we need to do something now. Has there been a serious thinking about it? As Mr. Chris Cooper said, it is too early to see any implementation on ground, except on some projects. But has there been a mindset issue? Are people finally agreeing? Yes, there need to be change. So something of that sort. We will come back and see. And of course, it also depends on the time available. So the next panelist now is Mr. Sumit Jain. And so you know the question, Mr. Jain. So please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Varman, for having me here. Good afternoon, all fellow co-panelists and participants. It has been 1 year since the Silkyara tragic event had happened, and a very long-lasting rescue mission was under operation, and it was successful after 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. So, have we really learned our lessons or we have forgotten the lessons that we were supposed to learn and implement? Have we changed the mindset? I would say that in the industry, the shift is there now, uh, at least to my knowledge, and discussions are ongoing with few government clients, between the government clients, on these aspects of underground tunneling, where the risk is very high. And but there still is a long way to go in formulating the right approach towards these works and the systems which we are using to contract the works. Few takeaways from the Silkyara event, which I feel will be implemented very soon. They are already underway. First is the importance of geological and geotechnical investigations it cannot be undermined. It is very important that the clients start taking responsibility of the geological and geotechnical investigations for their projects. It is not the contractor's project, it is the owner's project, and they should be acting in a way which is responsible by investing adequate time and money to investigate the ground before they decide. I repeat, before they decide, because it is the owners who decide where the tunnel alignment will be passing and where the portals will be located. And in case of Silkyara, we all know the portals were not located correctly. So the entire onus should be the clients should start taking onus of these aspects in their future projects. The second is the design assumptions as to the rockmass behavior for a particular situation, which was assumed during the design stage or even the DPR stage, that must be numerically verified during construction and documented in a way that the design can be adjusted and documented to be adjusted. It is one thing to document the observations, it is second thing to demonstrate that we are adjusting the design towards these observations. So it is important that both of these aspects should be documented properly. This will instill the confidence in the construction team at the site. The third point is the systematic and sequential tunneling operations should be happening as per the approved method statement only and only. There should not be any shortcut. There should not be any unapproved method statement, because approval per se, we can very well say that it takes delay happens in approval process and everything. But there is a very important thing about approvals is that all the team at site is in sync towards that particular method. They know what is going to be done next, what is to be done, how it is to be done, and to what extent it can be done. So that must be followed properly with the documentation of each and every activity and the duration of that activity. Because if anything goes wrong inside the tunnel, then it is important to understand what were the activities which were going on before the incident happened, and for what, for how long duration that activity was happening. The fourth point is observation and 3D monitoring strategy that should match with the adopted tunnel excavation scheme. One solution fits all is not the way we approach this underground work. It has to be dependent on the excavation scheme that is being adopted at site. So one is can be required to change the strategy of their monitoring depending on the scheme. And all readings must be transparently shared with the designers in real time so that a warning for any risk can be raised, or even if we want to optimize the tunneling operations, that can be done. So this can be done only if the things are shared transparently on a real-time basis. Now, I want to put one point that this can be done using wireless monitoring systems which are available these days in the country. They can be connected to a local LAN, and all the instruments, they can relay their readings wirelessly to the design office. The next thing is enhanced safety. By enhanced safety, I am right now focusing only on the tunnel Wi-Fi systems. Wi-Fi is now available inside the tunnels, at least on the project where I am working right now in Rishikesh Karnaprayag. We have Wi-Fi systems inside the tunnel where people can communicate if something goes wrong. Also, we are looking towards implementation of RFID monitoring of manpower and machinery movement inside the tunnel, so that we are aware as to how many machinery or manpower is available in which part of the underground tunnel, and how many people are inside at any particular point in time. Now, this should be made as a norm for all the existing and the upcoming tunnels, which, in my opinion, will increase the safety tremendously. The the second last point is the contract form. There has been a lot of debate on whether to go for an EPC or an item rate. I think Chris put it correctly. The item rate suits the challenges and the risks that we face for the tunneling operations in Himalayas. But in my opinion, the risk of the ground should always belong to the owner, and the risk of performing in the known ground must belong to the contractor. By known ground, I mean the ground which is known to the owner and which is spelled out in the bidding document. So that is a known ground for the contractor. So for the contractor, the performance in that known ground is the risk of the contractor. But if the ground is haywire, it changes randomly or beyond the contractual stipulations, then the risk should go to the owner. And for this, I would recommend that we start implementing performance-based items in an item rate setting, item rate contract, which will serve this purpose very well. So ready examples are ONORM, Austrian standard is there on NATM excavation. Then the FIDIC Emerald book has also come out. So the items must be spelled out in relation to the effort in terms of time and the direct cost required to do a particular activity. Because we cannot, looking forward, I would say that we should not keep on continuing with items like excavation in rock mass with Q less than 4, excavation in rock mass with Q more than 4. That doesn't mean anything as to the effort in terms of time and direct cost that is to be put in by the contractor. So unless the contractor is compensated properly for the effort that he's putting in for a particular situation, the compensation will never be fair and just. So that should be done. So yes, that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was really comprehensive, as expected from you. And it's really heartening to hear these things from an owner's perspective, and somebody talking about contractors while being in the chair of an owner. And this is really, really remarkable. And I'm sure all these things and this attitude will definitely change the way tunneling is done. But there's another responsibility on your shoulder, in fact, Mr. Sumit Jain, and the next one on the list, Colonel Parikshit Mehra. You both are young people, represent the owners, and you seriously think about making a change, and you actively talk about, both Mr. Jain and Colonel Mehra, talk about giving attention to the contract, the way the EPC contract and the shortcomings in that. And so, in fact, going forward, you have to take the lead. We are, in fact, outsiders, but you are the part of the system. And so you people like yourself, Colonel Parikshit Mehra, they have to take the lead and draft things and set the ball rolling as far as giving a blueprint of how things should be done, covering all aspects, and many of which you have covered so admirably. So moving forward now, let's go to the next panelist, and he is none other than Colonel Parikshit Mehra. You heard the introduction that I gave about him. So, Colonel Mehra, you know the question like everybody else, and so what is your answer?
Right. So, first of all, thank you, Dr. Verman, for having me here. And it's always a difficult task when you speak after such luminaries of the industry who've spelt out everything so beautifully. There have been such great pearls of wisdom that have already come out. What I try and do it maybe probably just briefly summarize one or two points that they've already said, and probably what I think is also relevant. Firstly, in road tunnels, I don't think much has moved. The only good thing I see moving now is that, we are trying to change the IRCSP 91, where we are trying to get in the GBRs. We are trying to actually, the 2019 version always had something about the geotechnical baseline reports. But again, the code is being revised. We're trying to give out something which is more so to say, comprehensive, so that people can actually put the geotechnical baseline reports in their contracts, and these baseline statements can actually define how risk is to be shared. So that is something which is a good change, and I think Silkyara has been an event which has pushed it. But yes, since we do not have adequate reference geology, and we need to work much more on our DPRs. because most of the projects that we are doing now are on greenfield alignments for road or rail tunnels, and we don't have reference geology in the areas. So it's very important that we do our DPRs, in a much more comprehensive manner. And something that I've always professed is to somehow delink this process of exploration, investigation, and execution. I think our DPR should be 5 years ahead of execution. We should do our investigation campaigns, our exploration, at stages where execution is not imminent. Because what happens with DPR consultants is they're under great pressure to deliver DPRs in no time. Till the time we don't give them time in the Himalayas, where most of the places are not accessible, very difficult to take your investigative, the drilling machines there to be able to take the right size of samples. They need to make access roads, they need time, they need money. So we need to increase the budget for these DPRs. We need to give them more time so that what we get in the end is a document which can ensure that there is lesser residual risk in the contract, when even before the contract is signed. So I think that is important. What was also brought out by Mr. Sumit Jain, which is so relevant, is that we need to have in tunnels the concept of time-related costs, because certain items, the overheads in tunnels are so high that in case excavation is taking longer because the rock mass is poorer than what we expected, we need to somehow compensate the contractor and to give him time-related costs. So that has to come into play. Emerald Book today, gives out these kind of mechanisms. ONOM B2203 definitely has been the mother document on which I think Emerald Book also took its inspiration from there. The other very important thing is monitoring. I think we need to do better at monitoring. We are still not doing enough. Even with Silkyara, I think had we been monitoring the tunnel better, we would have known that something like this is going to happen. And it's important that we monitor better in whatever fashion and we connect them. Today, this is the age of IoT and AI, and we should have these 3D deformation readings coming to us, trend lines being made, and prediction can always be made for an imminent collapse. So I think that is something that we really need to do better. And I think even Silkyara hasn't been able to push monitoring practice as much as they should be pushed. But the other thing is about rock mass classification systems. We need to take the empirical systems with a pinch of salt. RMR and Q are all good to design tunnels, to do our contracts. But finally, I think DPRs have to move towards more ground behavior type of classifications, more geomechanical classifications, where we can actually get into play into the DPRs, how the rock is going to behave and what kind of supports should be required by the contractor to be put to stabilize the ground as he excavates. So that's very important. I think that's something we need to work on. I think the other thing that we haven't done adequately about is to set certain minimum safety regulatory standards for working in the tunnels, and that is for all HSE aspects. I think we need to do more about the safety of people when they're working inside. Ensuring that they are never under an unsupported tunnel, ensuring that if in case there is movement after the primary lining, we mustn't progress the phase till the time we've stabilized the tunnel. When people are inside, we should have adequate communication systems, some kind of lined and unlined, some wireless communication systems inside, where in case of a situation like Silkyara, our team should be in touch if you're working on multiple phases. So those kind of things. Doing unidirectional biotube tunnels with cross passages being made as we progress during construction is something which will add to safety. So all that I believe is something that we need to do more about. Yes, Silkyara has made that push. People are already thinking about those long bi-directional tunnels that we are doing, 14 kilometers long with no escape tubes and no parallel tubes, and people have already started thinking about those things. So yes, Silkyara has been able to push people to think, but what happens on ground is for us to see. But I do understand 1 year is too less a time for things to really be seen on the ground. But yes, I think the mindset has changed, and we've woken up to the fact that we need to make our tunnels much safer, not only for the users, but also for the people who are constructing it. So that is good to see. enough has been said about forms of contract. EPC was made for buildings where the user could define what he wanted, in totality. It wasn't made for underground works where, even at best we only end up giving 1 to 2% of exploration, of an idea about the geology that somebody is going to encounter when they're working on. So we need to have risk sharing mechanisms. We need to make better GBRs. We need to have better geotechnical baselines going in our contract documents. I think that's the only way that we'll be able to get safer tunnels, because I'm sure that all contractors want to make the best tunnel when they're making it. They can make it the best only when they can be paid for it. And that's only possible if the contract allows so. So we need flexibility in contracts. Also, one thing which I think goes, a lot of people have been saying a lot of things about consultants. We need to do something about making our authority engineers truly independent. Unfortunately, I don't think we have empowered them enough. We need to empower them more. I'm part of a few committees where we're working on documents to ensure that, and hopefully with Silkyara, that change will come. So yeah.
Wow, wow, that is wonderful. And the way you summarize things, in fact, the things that you said in a short time would otherwise take somebody else ages to explain, and very nicely. And for the benefit of the audience, I'd like to spill the beans here. In the next issue of our magazine, Tunnel Times India, there's a very, very informative and very insightful article written by Colonel Parikshit Mehra. So just wait, it is coming out in next 10 days or so, when you will have access to that article, and the magazines will be available free for everybody who wishes to go through the magazine, free to download. So, but these are some very, 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 very relevant points that Colonel Mehra just made. And as I said, I have great faith in people like Mr. Sumit Jain, Colonel Mehra, who would drive this forward. And you just heard them, how open-minded they are. Gone are the days when the owners will not speak in the tone and the language that they are using. And this is truly heartening. That this is happening. And I'm also happy to see the sense I'm getting that, yes, Silkyara made an impact. And yes, people are now thinking there's been a start of the beginning of something which will happen, because otherwise we will be struggling big time. The number of tunnel projects that are in the pipeline, it is going to be almost impossible. Time will soon come to execute those projects if we do not change. And I'm happy the change is starting to happen. So he said so many things. Everybody said so many things. It's not possible for me to sum up everything. I'm not that capable. Also, the time is not on our side. So we are, we have two more panelists in this first round. The next panelist listed, Dr. Dinesh Sathi, unfortunately hasn't been able to join so far, but he has sent me a small presentation. So I will make that presentation, but let's go to the next panelist, and who is Mr. Satish Kumar Sharma. So I request Mr. Satish Kumar Sharma to come and answer the question that I've asked everybody and give your perspective of how things stand now. Mr. Satish Kumar Sharma.
Good evening to all of you. I think it was very good to listen all the panelists. And in general, whatever has been said, whether it is preparation of DPR is concerned, whether it is following the proper NATM process is concerned, whether it is monitoring is concerned, I always used to say these are very common, and we talk on each and every platform. Because now we are having the opportunity and we are discussing about in our respected community. So people are having full right to know. In my opinion, the way Silkyara has been brought from feasibility report to execution stage, I will never consider it to be a good tunneling way or good way of doing the tunneling, or even good way of doing the project itself. So that should not be taken as a reference, because accident has occurred. So because of that, we are taking the lessons. Yes, definitely that has given an impact to our eyes and ears. But before that, we should be understanding how the all ingredients to fail the tunnel or to reach up to that situation have been arrived. Initially, in 2013-14, the feasibility report was being made. It was allotted to be constructed, made by MC consultant. That consultant very soon after giving the report, first draft of report, they left the job. Rather than that company, entire company and responsibility was taken over by TAS, TAS, Techno Advisory Services. And now when they were making the road project, initially it was a pure road project. At a last phase of finalization of detailed project report, it was said that, okay, let us reduce the road length and make a 4.34 kilometer of tunnel. Gentlemen, the tunnel was planned on the paper, a line was drawn as per the IRC and Indian standard and best world practices. Because the tunnel was more than 4 kilometers, they proposed 2 tunnels, both having an excavated diameter of 10.5 meters on either side. The project cost was going something more than 1450 or something like that crore. At that juncture, when it went again for review, I'm just sharing with you very honestly, I'm not having any intention to hurt anybody. I think already Gopal Dhawan Saab has already told the finding. In that finding also the clarity is needed. Findings are really very good. The way in a very gentleman's wife that was summarized, I was part of that. I was very keenly, I was watching everything. So what happened? The line was drawn, the tunnel was made, but for that tunnel, no investigation has been done at that stage. So when it has gone for finalization, it was said that, okay, no, project cost is very high. So let us remove one tunnel, make it only one tunnel. In one tunnel itself, you put the escape tunnel. So that idea came, rather than making it 10.5 meter dia, make it 14.5 meter dia, make a wall in between, and let us put both escape tunnel and main tunnel together. I don't know. I don't want to comment on that because the geology of that area is really fragile. You need not to have any geotechnical investigation for that. Any experienced geologist or geotechnical engineer can go and say that it is a very fragile mountain. And the moment you are going to put a 14.5 meter diameter NATM or drill blast, whatever you call, it's going to be a challenge. Then ultimately the project cost was brought down at DPR level, something nearby 950 to 1000 crore by virtue of this invention. That, okay, normally if you see, follow the codal provision, at every 500 meter, you have to give the cross passage. You have to give 1.5 kilometer. If it is length is exceeding, you have to provide a separate tunnel. All these things are being done to take care of the safety aspect during construction and even during execution, during operation. So now it was planned. The moment execution started, I think earlier some other consultant was there. I don't want to name. That consultant was removed. Then somehow that Rodic and Iftisa, they were brought into a picture and they started. Up to that time, already 300 meter tunnel was already excavated from Badkot site as well as the Silkyara site. The moment we entered and that geological mapping has been done, I think many of you who have visited the Silkyara tunnel, you will be knowing very well that in entire length of Silkyara tunnel, from Badkot side to Silkyara side, there is a seam, shear seam which is passing. And believe me, many of the places, that shear seam is making the tunnel surface itself, tunnel profile itself into 2 parts. One part is having a geology of, say, class 5 AB, and another part is having a better geology, whatever, maybe class 4 or class 5. So, whatever has happened, as already Dhawan Saab has told, nobody from client side, because I have made couple of visits along with at that time the top authority in NHIDCL and many of the other people. I was vocal also, as I am here. Nobody was having a guts to say that let us change the alignment. And ultimately, what has happened after 20 failures, 20, what you call that, collapses, the 21st, what has happened, it is there. Everybody is aware now. The third point, which normally we say that when you are making this type of tunnel, as you are proceeding along with the tunnel, you should be providing that at every 500 meter or whatever that one escape area is there. Little local widening is there. Many a time that widening has to be done. If suppose you are having a rock class of 1 or 2, maybe you can extend at later stage also. You should be doing as you are proceeding along with the tunnel. Because if your geology is fragile and you are coming back and again you are going to make that space, refuge space, probably it will be posing another challenge. So after saying very specific thing, few things about the Silkyara, I will only say it was never, in my mind, in my opinion, it was never a project to be referred in future. As it has been already said, on the basis of all this, in very sophisticated way, whatever the findings are there, already I think Dhawan Sahab had said. Definitely making a project, GBR should be happening as a basis. Now NHIDCL and NHI, they already started giving that, okay, GBR, you take GBR as a reference. If there is any variation, kindly proceed further. But the problem is, theoretically, everybody agrees. But when it goes to the field, and I have seen the contractor's pain, many a times, even for variation of valid GBR, hardly you will find from authority side anybody to take the decision. And what will happen, many a times I have seen many leaders, they will say, you just execute for a company of your stature, it hardly matters, and you just execute because already it is in variation, you have already pointed, you have already written the letter, go and take it through arbitration. It will not pose any problem. So my takeaway, not from Silkyara, overall, if you are going to do the underground space management or underground space construction, whether it is a tunneling or even for hydropower, 3 points which are very much important, other than whatever already has been said, that a good DPR, good GBR, good survey investigation, good monitoring and follow the NITM norms. In addition to that, these 3 points that, okay, the mindset of the authority, the mindset of owners, that everything has to be managed by contractor, whether it is seen, unseen, overseen, is not good. Because ultimately, contractor is going to suffer in their cash flow. And once the working capital will suffer, it will impact your project execution and quality management. So a decision for this is very much required. Number 2, you just in mindset that, okay, contractor will bring money and again, he will claim through arbitration. This is not going to work. Here, somehow we have to have a very optimistic approach and very positive approach, that we have to just see that whatever variation, whatever the actual claims, whether it is GVR variation, whether it is any other things are there, that needs to be, contractor or consultant has to be compensated timely. And number 3, which is more important, for the project like this, where a lot of challenges, even if you do the detailed investigation and everything, still a lot of challenges you are going to face when you are going to have actual execution. So a detailed engineering consultant should always be there, or an engineering tunneling expert or consultant should always be there along with the contractor, EPC contractor, during the entire execution of the project. It should not happen that, okay, once he is giving the design, whether you are, because of the payment he is leaving, or you are not basically engaging the consultant for that period, it's not good. I consider construction of tunneling and underground structure, whatever your input you are getting from the site, as already it has been said by Mr. Parikshit, whatever you are getting from the site, that input you are getting from the site, that input should be taken further to revisit your entire design. And wherever it is needed, reinforce. You just strengthen whatever the system you have adapted and you have provided. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharma, for giving very impressive, details of how things are as far as tunneling are concerned and what should be done. Very quickly, can you also say that, okay, this should be done, but has there been any change? Like what you are saying, are the owners, are any other stakeholders also acknowledge, yes, this should be done? Has there been any change in last 1 year?
I think in last 1 year, I have interacted with at least half a dozen clients who are either directly from government or they are from public sector. At least everybody is a little cautious about that yes, once it is going to be there, once it is going to be in execution for any underground project, at least we should be very much careful that if structure is safe and our people are not going to be, their safety is not going to be compromised. Definitely that impact is there. But when that impact needs to be implemented in terms of various investigation or management of the consultant or management with the contractor, if still there, a lot of work has to be done.
Agreed. Yes. Thank you very much. And now time is to look at what Dr. Sati, the last panelist, last but not the least, has shared with us. So it's my privilege to quickly share the presentation that he said. It is his presentation. So pardon me if I make any mistakes. I hope, can somebody confirm that you can see the presentation on your screens? Can somebody confirm?
Yes.
It's okay.
Oh, okay, great. So this is by Dr. Dinesh Sati, who has highlighted the question right on the first slide. Has the Silkyara incident truly sparked changes in tunneling practices across India? So what he has to say, he says, yes, there have been policy level changes or indication of changes. Listed here are 1, 2, and 3. First is safety audits and inspection. We all know, we all learned through reports that 29 under construction tunnel projects have been made since since the episode of Silkyara. Second thing, what he sees as policy level changes is the review of construction practice, and third is formation of expert committees. And his comments are in red on the right side, and he says the supposedly 3 changes at policy level are not new, as the duties defined by the client, the owner, to its expert engineers, authority engineer, did cover point numbers 1 and 2. And as far as third is concerned, usually the client's developers constitute a board or panel of experts to periodically review and monitor the progress of the project works. Yes, that goes very well for hydropower industry, has been doing that forever. Road sector, not all the projects, I think only in special cases, you have a panel of experts. I may be wrong, but that's how it is happening. As far as, and what is concerning really, ladies and gentlemen, is that ground level changes, nothing. As far as he says, no visible changes as such. And then he sort of explains that it is impossible without bringing out quality DPR, what other panelists also mentioned, where rock defects, faults, shears are meticulously mapped and baseline geotechnical values of the available rock mass defined as close intervals. So he's talking about better geological and geotechnical investigations and reporting. And he says it would help to suggest the most appropriate tunnel design of which the construction would be safe and swift. On the next slide, he highlights what makes the feasibility, geological and geotechnical investigations so poor that some of have been talking about. Number 1, award to low bid, lack of money. Second, the DPR agency cannot hire experienced engineering geologists like Dr. Dinesh Sati, I believe, to collect realistic ground information because of lack of money available, and of course the lack of understanding of what can go wrong if you do not consult a specialist engineering geologist. And so that is there. And then he says the same reasons are for project construction, monitoring, and that list continues. And coming to Silkyara, he says that the latest probe report, which was submitted a few days back on Silkyara tunnels, refers that there was no alternative tunnel alignment suggested. And then in yellow highlights, he gave the reasons that alignment of the Silkyara tunnel along which it is being constructed was finalized, taking into account that a substantial part of the upper reaches of the ridge falls under heavy snowfall during winters. And you can see a picture from 2012 when Dr. Sati was involved. He's there on your screen. He was involved in the pre-feasibility report for this project. And this snowfall affected area compels the closure of the highway for a couple of weeks every year, and that's why this alignment was chosen. Also, the second reason was this was the shortest possible alignment with matching levels. Now, he says that the tunnel aligning parallel to a shear zone. Mr. Sharma mentioned about shear zone. Yes, shear zone is there affecting the tunnel substantially, but Dr. Sati says that tunnel alignment being parallel to a shear zone is not the case, really. It's oblique. It's oblique to the tunnel alignment. And secondly, the zone of shearing or the width of the shear zone is wrongly misunderstood. It is misunderstood. Wrongly understood amongst the engineering geologists and geotechnical engineers. And then he says that this zone of shearing, the shearing zone width is not uniform. There would be variations from intact rock to, the shear zone as far as their thickness or the width is concerned. And that would affect the width of the crushing zone or a zone of low strength. So therefore, while designing the supports, the designers should take this into account. But in this case, these variations in shear zone width and the intact rock width are not reported to geotechnical experts or the designers. And therefore, the design ground general support at times fails. And he explains this through this last slide, which you can see. And you can see last one. I'm not sure whether you can see my cursor. You can see the shear zone here right in the middle of the intact rock on this side, intact rock on the other side. And you can see it varies, becomes wider as you come to the lower altitudinal level. And so it can vary from place to place. And this is something, I'm a civil engineer, like many of you. We as civil engineers, we do not understand these things, of course, because I have a background in rock mechanics. So I have been forced to understand these things to some extent, but not, having a geologist by your side is works wonders. And then you have to listen to him or her also. And this slide actually explains that how shear zone and its width can impact the way your support should be designed. And so this is what he wanted to bring forward, bring to our notice. Okay, so we are back to this. And now, although we have run out of time almost, but then if there is interest, I would be very keen to have as the participants are asking questions through chat box. And I have told them that please send your questions to my email ID, which is also mentioned in the chat box, manoj@mverman.com. And we will share these questions with the panelists. And I'm assuming that the panelists would be gracious enough to answer those, and all the good questions and good answers will be put up when we put up the video of this discussion on social media. Along with that, we'll find a way of making the good question and good answers public so that the discussion is more complete than what it is now. So now, without much ado, I would request the panelists themselves. We have got 5 panelists present here. If they would want to ask a question to a fellow panelist, or they would like to finish something which they could not say earlier, some new spark in the mind after listening to others. So whatever way it is, each panelist is requested to make one comment or ask one question, and no panelist can be asked more than 2 questions. So please go ahead. Whosoever wants to go first, please go ahead.
I think, Manoj, one thing what Mr. Chris told me in very beginning, that was very important. The concept of lowest bidder. The biggest problem is, even today, even for DPR, let us discuss with the DPR. The DPR which is being prepared when the bid is coming, even for a tunneling project, if suppose it is a 10-kilometer long tunnel, you can understand, and you know very well, if suppose you are going to do the investigation as per the national and international norms, how much it will cost. And if suppose in the bidding that fellow is giving that, okay, he will be charging for in investigation, he will be hardly charging 5% of the standard norms. Like for a geotechnical investigation, for a drill hole per meter, he will be taking 200 rupees. Whereas on any hilly area, if you go, you can't do any geotechnical investigation less than 8,000-10,000 rupees per meter. And he is bidding with those figures. And I'm really surprised. Our authorities accept that. Okay, he will be doing the drilling. Maybe he's having his own machine and X, Y, Z and everything. So that you are putting the foundation for making a failed project at that juncture itself. So again, what I was telling him, as far as the survey and investigation is concerned, as far as even at DPR stage itself, you should be, even today, I'm of the strong opinion, you should be keeping this scope separately. Maybe it is taking a bit more time, but let the DPR consultant tell that, okay, this is the geotechnical investigation quantum is needed and kindly get it arranged through this vendor.
Yes, I
think-
agree. So we've got, you mentioned authorities. Why are they allowing it? We have got two authorities sitting here, Border Roads Organization and RVNL. If they have any comment to make, are they accepting these things? And if yes, can you do anything to lessen the surprise of Mr. Sharma?
Unfortunately, I think I'll take this on. Thankfully, I haven't seen someone who's taken it at very low cost. But yes, I think where we do go wrong is sometimes we just push them too much for time. And what happens is when you push a DPR consultant for time, the activity where the maximum time needs to go in the mountains is drilling. So what happens is where that you need 20 drill holes, you end up doing 4. And we have this habit of just doing some drill holes at the portals. We don't want to take the pains to make access roads and go on top. We don't develop our georeference model very well. We don't do it scientifically. We don't do the walkover surveys which are required. We don't do the macro studies. Then the right geophysical methods don't come in. And unfortunately, then where we need the drill holes to give us the confirmation for transition in geology, the important zones, we don't end up doing them because that is something which is going to take time. So I think the best way to do it is that we need to decouple this. We as a nation should have aim of having in investigation and exploration programs where we want these tunnels to come up, whether it is roads and rails, which should be decoupled with the execution of the projects. And if we can somehow have a 5-year gap in between, I think we'll do much better DPRs, because then people who are on the DPR team are doing it for the DPR, and they're not looking for the contract to be, they're not looking for a tender document that they want to upload. Unfortunately, we end up getting our DPR consultants with the view of with a preset mind of dates for when we want to upload the tender. I think that's where we go wrong. And if we decouple this, I think a lot of our issues will be sorted out, and I think much more professional DPR consultants will come into play. I think that will.
Yes, you're absolutely spot on, but there's also a political angle to this. The political masters want to have a project announced and done and dusted, or get it started, and delay in DPRs or investigation is always seen as a culprit by them because they do not understand. I hope things will change, and we have to keep making the noise. And I'm so happy. I again would like to reiterate that people like Parikshit Mehra and Sumit Jain, both of them are from the owner's side, and they are talking this language. So things are changing for sure. Any other panelists would like to ask any question or make any comment?
Well, Manoj, can I?
Yes, of course.
First of all, I would like to congratulate Colonel Mehra for putting things so clearly, particularly in the last part of his discussion. And now this answer to this second question, perhaps whatever he has said is the need of the day. I will not repeat whatever he has said, but I endorse fully that we need to take certain decisions as far as our exploration methodology and philosophy is concerned, and we certainly need to do exploration in an objective manner, and particularly backing up our surface geological mappings with geophysics and then targeting those questionable gray areas with some deep drill holes, and not that putting drill holes everywhere and finding nothing, but first of all identify that what we are going to explore and then direct your drill hole in that particular direction so that in a shortest possible distance you hit the geological feature which you are looking for. This is number one. Number two, in the first part, Colonel Mehra said something about rock mass classification. I fully agree with him that nowadays, you see, slowly, this ground type and behavior type classifications, which are proposed by Austrians and particularly ONORM 2010, I think those are. Those seems to be more robust for Himalayas. But there are certain wrong practices the way we are using our rock mass classification system. I'll very briefly put it before you that suppose in case we are using NMT, Norwegian method of tunneling, and we are doing our rock mass classification by RMR. RMR provides steel ribs for class 4 and class 5 rocks. Whereas there is no provision in the NMT philosophy, there you have to go for RRS, reinforced ribs of short grade. So briefly you can differentiate that how this is putting a square peg into a round hole or vice versa. And likewise, everybody says I'm using NATM. But if you ask him that what rock mass classification you are using, he will say I'm using Q and RMR. If you are using NATM, then both these classifications will not fulfill the requirements which NATM is asking for. There you will have to go for ground type and behavior type classification systems. So basically, I think all owners, consultants, and geologists, they need to first of all decide that what tunneling method they are going to use and accordingly choose the right type of rock mass classification and then use rock mass classification system in true letter and spirit, because every classification system has its own merits and demerits. First of all, we must know those merits and demerits, and then we can even check the results of one classification system and the other classification system and correlate them. So because time is short, so I'll not go further beyond Manoj. So this is my comment.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Gopal Dhawan. And this discussion can continue endlessly because all of us have so much to contribute. But we still have some, we've run out of time. But as long as people are ready to stick around for some meaningful discussion, everybody's welcome. The participants who are the backbone of any such webinar or any such discussion, they are there. And I'm sure they have a lot of questions. I've already started receiving the questions. Again, I would request that please send your questions by email so that the panelists can have a good answer to all the questions, and we'll share the answers and questions with everybody later. And so please keep sending your questions. But for now, I would again go back to the panelists. If anybody out of the panelists would like to say anything else or would like to ask the fellow panelist a question, you're welcome to do that.
Manoj,
Yes,
sorry,
Chris.
it's Chris. So we've been talking about, it's actually just a statement. We've been talking about the normal tunneling method, the new Australian tunneling method. The TBM so far has an alternative procedure, and so far really is unproven in the Himalayas. I'd just like to make a point on two things: embracing technology. First one is the use of TBMs. We've been very successful at RVNL. I think there's been a reluctance to use TBMs where they could be used because of the lack of confidence. So I'd like to think that as the tunneling goes forward, there is a building of confidence. It's certainly safer than the methods we're using, faster and cheaper in the right rock types. The other technology I'd like to mention is we've been focused on geotechnical or geophysical understanding of the rock mass. During tunneling, we have seismic resources, the tunnel TSP, tunnel seismic prediction, and also the integrated seismic prediction. which gives us a very, very accurate, I can say, understanding of not the rock that's ahead, but also the geophysical qualities, the elasticity, the fracturing that's there, joint directions, and to be honest, we've been using it integral with the tunnels at RVNL. It's proven to be well, very valuable. It's been very accurate. And even if you end up in a tunnel with a poor GBR or a GBR that's missing, utilizing these new technologies going forward, it can give you the confidence or give you the prediction of ground qualities ahead. So I just wanted to make that point.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's
Varman, I'm Goel. Can I say?
yes, of course, Dr. Goel. Yes.
Yeah. Very nice. It's a very nice attempt, Dr. Varman. I think since last 1 year, we were reading somewhere or the other that what has happened in Silkyara. And it's good to hear all the 6 panelists, though Dr. Sati was not there, but you have very nicely brought out the points which are raised by by Dr. Sati. Now, we all agree that all of us almost are on the same stand, that all of the panelists are almost on the same stand, that DPR, safety, monitoring, okay, and then the expert panel of experts is required. But out of all these takeaways, I want to highlight one point here is this, that you see this tunnel, the portion where the collapse has occurred, that was excavated long back, right? And the monitoring was also being carried out. And as Mr. Satish Sharma has highlighted, and very correctly he has highlighted, that this was being re-excavated. So the important thing, which is really is required to, as a major takeaway, is that we should avoid the reconstruction or re-excavation. We should avoid to happen this, and we should try to, analyze the ground beforehand or during the construction, and then accordingly, we should strengthen the support, avoiding the re-excavation of the tunnel. I think this is one major takeaway which we should highlight as one of the points after this discussions. Thank you.
Yes, very rightly put, Dr. Goel. I think this point was missed, that fragile geology you have to handle with care. And so very nicely said. And now we know that because of that kind of handling, the mishap occurred. So very nice. Any other panelists would like to say anything or ask any question or make a comment or add to what you have already said before we wrap it up? Silence. Okay, so that means everybody has had enough. And but the good thing is, when I was listening to the various discussions, and there many points were made. There was a little bit discussion about the classification systems and the utility. And there were other points that, like Chris mentioned, about the to encourage the use of TBMs more in the Himalayas. So many such little things came out of this, apart from the major purpose of this that is there. But these little things I'm already thinking about having specialized sessions like these on each of those aspects. Like we can have a session on classification approaches. Is it the right thing to do going forward? Do we need any changes? If yes, why? If not, why? So people like Dr. R.K. Goel, who have written a book on classification, and I've been privileged to work with him since those early days when we used to do instrumentation together, and many other things, 1980s. And many other people in this group can contribute to that. Similarly, about TBMs versus should we encourage the use of TBMs? What are the issues? Now, just making a point about the RVNL project, I was part of the team that, in fact, leading the team which actually finalized the alignment and of this project about 10 years back, or slightly more than 10 years back. And I very clearly remember that even at that time, we had no doubt in our mind that for this particular package 4, I mean, it was not package 4 at that time, but this particular tunnel, we'll have to use TBM. So it was clear in our minds at that time. And why we were so confident, and I'll tell you something, because we saw the way RVNL is planning to do things. They were planning to do things absolutely correctly, starting from the investigations where the drilling of boreholes, and it was discussed, was not the only thing. In fact, drilling of these deep boreholes in the Himalayas, it's difficult. Therefore, we must do only the number that are required at the places where they're required, at the inclination that they were required, as Dr. Dhawan also mentioned, Colonel Mehra mentioned. And so, but there are many other things that you can do before that. Geophysical was mentioned, satellite imaging was mentioned. In this day and age, the technology has also moved forward. So many such things, I think, deserve more discussion. So thank you very much, everybody, especially the panelists who gave their time, and all of you are very busy and important people. And in the participants, we had such luminaries like Dr. R.K. Goel, and I can see many of the names. And I'm sure I've got messages. Are you going to record this? We don't miss. Internationally, people are very interested. Some of them are here in this group. And so yes, it's already been recorded, and it will be put up on the social media. And the questions are coming through email. I'm already seeing them. So we'll have a little more work for the panelists to do in answering those questions. And so it's been a really, really heartening for me to see the interest and what comes out of it. I will sort of compile a report of what all was discussed and share with the panelists before we make it public, kind of public. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And just to remind, the next issue of Tunnel Times India, which is going to be free again, is going to be a blockbuster. It is on a hot topic. You may have guessed, but let's see how it goes. It is coming out in about 9-10 days, perhaps on the most important day, which was discussed today, was referred to today. Let's see how it goes, but look out for that magazine, the second issue of Tunnel Times India. Till then, it is bye-bye from my side, and thank you very much, everybody, and have a great evening ahead.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Manoj. Thanks. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.